Hi everyone, welcome to the event from Byte Academy and Nestria. Today we will have a closer look into the Python map and filter function. We will wait for 2 more minutes and then we will get started. Hi everyone, welcome to the event from Byte Academy and Nestria. As we can see the topic for the today, it's closer look into Python map and filter function. So we will basically try to understand with different example about the map and the filter function available on Python. So before we jump into the topic, I would like to give a short introduction about Nestria. Well, Nestria is Byte Academy's sister company, and you can join the Discord server of Nestria, where you will be able to, see a lot of different channels where different content related to data science, Python, careers will be shared, and you can, get many help out of that. I will be giving a brief overview about the Nestria Discord server, okay, after the session, all right. So the Discord Nestria link and the Discord application link has been provided in the description box. You can check out the description box. And one more thing, if the description box link is a little bit different than what you can see on the screen, in that case, no need to worry. That same link you can use that's present on the description box. It will land you to the Nestria Discord server as well. Okay, let's look at the agenda for today. First, we will start with what is map and filter function on Python, right? Then we will try to look at how the map function works, or what basically its functionality or feature is. Next, we will look at the filter function, and we will do the same for the filter function. We will look at the feature or functionality of the feature or filter function. And in the end, we will look at some example how this map and filter function can be used, to achieve some efficient code, all right, or streamlined code. Fine. So let us, go to the Google Colab. By the way, I will be using Google Colab environment for coding. Okay. You can also code along with me if you want. You can just search for Google Colab, and over there, it will be giving you a Jupyter notebook along with a dedicated computer. Okay. It is provided by Google. and you can just use your browser to write the Python code. All right. So let's jump into that. All right. So before we directly get into the application of map and filter function and try to code it, let's try to understand how this map and filter function works. First of all, let's start with the map function. Map and filter both are inbuilt function of Python. Okay, we need not to import any library explicitly. Okay, whenever you launch the Python interpreter, that time itself, it will be available. The functions will be available. Okay, and now this function, this map function, this will help you to map any data from one form to another form. Like what I'm trying to mean by this. Let's take one small example about the map function. Let's say I have a list, okay? And in this list, I have elements like 1, 2, 3. And I want to create a new list where the square of each of these elements will be present in this new list. So in this new list, I basically want 1 square as a first element, which is 1. Then I want 2 square as a second element, which is 4. And then I want 3 square as a third element, which is 9. Now, over here, okay, let me connect. By the way, you have to connect it. You need to click over here to connect, or you can just execute the cell. It will also force it to connect to the server. Right. Now, in mapping, what happens is each element of a iterable or a list, okay, it will be picked up. It will be mapped onto some other element after doing some modification. So here, if we try to understand the mapping factor between the list and the new list, so the mapping factor will be square, right? Basically, we are holding each and every element and we are squaring them, right? So this is the concept of map function. It will literally hold each of the element one after the other. And the syntax is very slick and it's just a one-line syntax. We need not to write much of a code for this. We need not to write any loop, okay? So these are the advantages. Okay? While explaining this with the code, I will be showing the code for loops, okay? And after that, I will be applying with map function so that you understand the difference between them, okay? It makes our code much more efficient. It makes our code much more readable and slick, all right? So this is all about the map function, okay? Next comes the filter function. Filter function also, you can also consider this one as a type of mapping, but it is more of a filtration process, okay? So in mapping, what happens? All the elements, let's say if there are 3 elements over here, all the 3 elements will be present over here as well. It's just each of the element when it gets mapped from here to here will be will be going through some sort of modification, like 2 became 4 over here, 3 became 9 over here. So the modification factor or the mapping factor is squaring them. We can square them, or we can also do very complex stuff. All right, it's not about only squaring them or doing very simple stuff. We can also do some complex 4 or 5 lines of stuff, okay? Later I will be showing how to do that. Whereas in filter, what is usually our aim is, let me change this list a little bit. So this is 4 and this is 5, okay? Now over here, from this list, when I am creating another list, that time I don't want all the elements to be present in the new list. from the top list, when they will be, copied, okay, or filtered to the new list, I want a filtration factor to be applied. Okay. So filter or filtration factor that will be applied over here. Let's say I want to apply only even numbers. Okay, only even numbers. So here in the end, what we will be able to see, 2 and 4. Okay, so behind the scene, what happens? First, it will be selecting 1, and there will be a filtration code that we have to write, the filtration logic. It's not that we can tell Python that I want the even numbers. No, Python doesn't understand this instruction. We need to write the instruction for Python, like how to make sense of even number, how Python will understand something is an even number and something is an odd number, right? So we have to write that code. But again, the filter function, instead of using for loop or while loop, we can just directly apply this filter function and pass the filtration criteria or in terms of another function. All right, what I'm trying to mean by this, we can write the filtration logic inside one function and pass that function as an argument to the filter function along with the list on which I want to apply the filtration. Okay, we will be seeing everything on action. Okay, just I'm trying to explain how this works. So it will be selecting this element and the filtration function. Here, one difference between the mapping and filtration function is the answer or the filtration, what should I say? The final result of the filtration should be in terms of yes or no, or in other words, in the world of programming language, true or false. So when filter will select this element, the filtration code should be written in such a way that for this element, it will be returning false. Okay. Similarly, when the filter function will select this element, the filtration function should be returning true in that case. And then only it will let this component pass from here to here. Again, it will select 3. The filtration function will be telling false, and that's why it won't be copied to the new list. Similarly, when the filter function will select this, the filtration criteria will be returning true, and that's why it will be copied over here. And same goes for 5, it will be returning false, and that's why it won't be present over here. So while writing the filtration function, we need to remember one criteria. The function or the logic should return true or false, indicating which one should pass through and which one should not pass through. All right. If I want something to pass through, I have to return true for that. And if I don't want some element to pass through, in that case, I need to return false in that case, right? Okay. So let's see them in action. First, I will start with map. All right. Okay, let me take a text cell. So let's start with map. And first I will generate some numbers. Okay. So let's say I will be using list comprehension in order to generate some number between 1 to 25. All right. So num for num in range, and I want to start at 1 and I want to end at 25 or precisely 24. If I want to end at 25, I need to make it 26. All right, because it doesn't consider the last number. So if I run this, I can print it, and I want precisely till 24. So let's mention it 25, and after that I can. So let's change num list. Okay. List. All right. So it's basically the number list, and here dynamically using list comprehension technique, I'm generating a list of number or integer that starts from 1 and ends at 24. The last number or the mentioned range is not considered. So if I execute this, I can see number from 1 to 24 has been generated. Okay. Now, without the map function, so what I want to do, so basically the task that I want to perform over here, or the mapping criteria that should be, taking place over here is multiply by 2. Okay. I'm taking simple example. We can, you can try with some complex example, right? So let's say I want to multiply each and every element by 2, and then I want to create a new list. Okay. After this multiplication. Okay. So if I want to use the conventional method without using the map function, how I'm going to do that? So basically, let me take a new list, and it's an empty list where I will be filling up the elements. And then I will run a for loop for I in this particular number list. I will select. This for loop will help me to go through each element one after the other, right? So every time the I will change, first the I will become 1, then the I will become 2, and so on. Okay. And what I want basically, I want to append in the new list. So this is the new list. In the new list, I want to append the same I element, means the selected element, but before inserting the element, I want to multiply them with 2. Okay, and that's it. I can now print. Let me print both of them side by side so that we can have a easy comparison. So this is the num list, and then I can go ahead with new list. And I can execute. Well, we can see that 1 became 2, 2 became 4, 3 became 6, 4, 8, 5, 10, 6, 12, and so on. So every number got mapped over here. Okay, there won't be any missing numbers. So every number got mapped in the new list. Okay, but after getting modified by a modification factor or mapping factor. So here the mapping factor was multiplication by 2. Okay. Now it's time to look at the map function syntax, right? How it makes our life easier or makes things look slick. All right. So the first way will be to defining a function that will perform this mapping. Okay. This is a conventional way of doing. This is the function is sqr. This sqr takes a number x and it simply returns that number after multiplying that number with 2. And that's it. Our mapping function is ready. Okay. Or the function that will help me in mapping, that is ready. It is simple as that, right? After that, new list. Okay, let me write new list 2. Okay, and over here, I'm going to select the same list, the same num list, and I'm going to use this square function to multiply that, right? But here, without running the for loop or any other complexities. Okay, so map function internally takes care of that. So I can just write map function, and in the map function, I can mention the mapping, the function that carries the logic of the mapping. So this function carries the logic of the mapping. So I can pass the reference to this function, means just the name of that function. After that, on which list or iterable I want to apply the method. So I want to apply on num list. Okay, but there is a catch little bit. So this map function doesn't really returns a list. So it returns some other data type. So in order to convert that back into list, I just need to wrap that under list. I'm just doing a typecasting, and that's it. So after that, if I print, or let's make it cube this time. All right. So not cube, multiply by 3. Okay. So we already did multiply by 2 over there. Right? So let's see some difference. So multiply by 3. All right. And so over here, I'm going to just print this list. And all the elements got multiplied by 3. So 1 became 3, 2 became 6, 3 became 9, 4 became 12. And this is how the map function works. All right. Now, one more function is there. Okay. Whenever we have a simple code like this, here we are basically doing a single instruction, right? We are taking the number, we are just multiplying with 3. We need not to, in these cases, we need not to even define a separate function. The separate function concept exists here because sometimes what will happen, this might be not a single thing. There might be, 10, 20 lines of code, 10, 20 different type, lines of code, because the complexity of mapping is more. We want to do multiple steps in order to perform the mapping. And finally, I want to return the answer, right? In that case, you can go for a separate function itself, separate mapping function, or a separate function that carries the mapping logic. But when we have simple thing like this, we can go for something called as lambda function. Okay, we can use lambda function along with map and filter both, but lambda function is the way to go in this case, right? So I will do the same thing. All right, let's say this time take new list 3, and I will take the same thing, but instead of this function feeding in this function, I'm going to use lambda function. Okay, so lambda, I need to write lambda, then this is a parameter. Okay, so I'm writing this parameter over here, and after I need to put a colon. After the colon, you need to write the body. And one fact about the lambda function can contain only one statement, right? So we can write only one statement. So here what we are doing x into 3, and that's it. And we also need not to write the return keyword, right? Automatically, whatever you have written after the colon will be returned, the value will be returned. So simply, it's the same function, but in the form of lambda function. All right, so I can just directly declare lambda function over here. So x will be the parameter, and it's getting multiplied, and then it will be returned. And this will happen for each and every element. Okay, I can run this function, and I can see the same output. There is no difference at all, right? So this is the, how to work with the map function, and we can make our code a little bit more efficient with the map function. Okay. Now let's look at a little complex example for the map function. Okay. Here it is very trivial, right? So in these trivial cases like this, we can go for directly a simple lambda function, and that will do our job, right? But here, as I mentioned, if we have complex logic, not a simple logic that we can do in a single statement, in that case, we need to go for external function, right? So let's try to take an example of that sort. Okay. What I will do, I will take an employee list first. Okay. So let's say I am having an employee list. Okay. And what is the task that we would like to perform over here? So basically the task is we need to split the employee names into first name and last name, right? So we can see the full name of the employees, right? So I need to select each and every employee name and split them into first name and last name, right? And box them inside a dictionary. Okay, I need to, again, after converting separating the first name and last name, I need to put that inside a dictionary, and those each single dictionary will be representing the single elements. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So first of all, obviously this is not a single line of code, so we cannot go for the lambda function in this case. We need to use a separate function, right? That we need to design as well. So let's design that function. So logic will be straightforward. Every time single element will be selected. So let's select a single element. So x, let's say x is a variable that is capturing the element. After that, I am taking a temporary dictionary. All right, it's an empty dictionary where I will be putting the elements. Okay, but before that, I need to split the element into first name and last name, and then I need to back them up inside this dictionary, right? So temporary list, or so this is a temporary list I'm creating. Why temporary list? Because I need to go through each and every string, right? So this is a string. I need to divide that string into two parts. One is the first name, one is the last name. And I can, for that, I can use x dot split method. So split method will help me to divide this string into two parts. And I could have, not use this one. By default, it selects a space, but yeah, it's okay to keep things explicit always, all right? So basically X will be the element, each element. So first time, let's say it will be selecting this and then it will be dividing this thing into two parts. And that part will be clubbed up inside a list and will be returned. So I am storing that inside temporary list. Now inside this temporary list, I have first element as the first name, second element as the second name. So it's time to back those two things inside the temporary dictionary. So inside the temporary dictionary, I can have a new key called fname. And inside that, I can put the value as temporary list, 0th element. And similarly, after that, I can have another key called lname. And in the temporary list, I'm going to capture the first element, right? So temporary list, once again, I will repeat, temporary list contains basically this part and this part separately as a list elements. So I have captured the first element, right? And put it inside this temporary dictionary under the name, under the key name fname. And the second element I have backed inside this dictionary under the key name called lname, right? And finally, what is the task? So return what? Return the temporary dictionary itself. Okay. So my function is ready. Now it's time just to create a new list. So employee list mapped. All right. So after getting mapped, so this elements will get mapped into something else, right? So I will call the map function, but before that I need to call the list, because we know that the map function doesn't really return a list, right? But in the end, I want them as a list of dictionaries, right? So in the map function, simply, I need to pass the function first. That will be doing the mapping for me. And second, the list from which I will select the elements, right? And finally, I'm going to print the list and see whether it's properly working or not. If we play this, we can see that all the names has been selected and backed inside a dictionary. All the three elements are backed inside a dictionary, and the first name and last name are separated with, separately present under the key names fname and lname. Okay, this is how you can use the map function, and you can go ahead and use for very complex cases, right? Last, let's look at the filter function then. So filter. So we will see only one example because you have already understood how this stuff works. So for filter, I will take directly a comprehensive example. Okay. So basically, let's have some data over here for this filter. So I have the same list, I copy pasted this stuff and I have added some two new names, all right. Okay, so this is my data that I will be working with, or this is my list. Basically, this is a list of dictionary, okay. And in filter, okay, so what is the task basically we are trying to perform over here? We need to fetch the people by fname and lname, okay. Or you can say, let's say, we need to fetch the records. Okay, let's say fetch the records. So fetch the records who joined on 2022, right? So basically among all the records, so here I have taken only few list items. The reason is we wanted to cross verify. You can go for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000, records. Fine. That time the advantage of these methods will be useful, okay, or will be visible. So over here, only 5 elements are there. So I need to fetch the records who joined on 2022, and each record is represented by this dictionary. So basically, I need to fetch this one and this one. All right, these two dictionary. I need to fetch among all, right? So it's a case of filtration, right? Among all the 5, I need to fetch only this 2, right? Filter out only this 2. Okay, let's have that. So let's do it with a filter function. All right. So let me define a function. So employee filter. Things are same. So let's take I as a variable, and I'm checking if I will be each of these elements, right? So from there, how to understand someone has joined on 2022 or not? First, I need to fetch out this date, right? And this date is under this key. So I need to mention the key name over here in order to reach to that date. So the key is joined. So joined, I'm fetching, first of all, the value, what is present inside this join. And after that, I just can simply check dot ends with. Okay, this is a method that present in string, and I want to check, does that ends with not 23 but 22, right? Now if this ends with 2022, in that case, what I want, as I mentioned, if I want to keep some record, in that case, I just write return. I have to return true. Okay, I just need to return true. Let me check that whether, yeah, everything is fine. And else, I would like to return false, right? So logic is very simple. When it will be selecting this, find this particular record, it will be selecting the joint key, and the joint key will give us the access to this particular string. This is a string, and this string, when we capture this string, I can just check that whether that string ends with 2022 or not. So over here, the answer will be false because the string doesn't end with 2022. So return will be false over here. Okay. All right. So let's see how it works. Whether it works out properly or not. So new list 2022. Yes. So this time we need to use the filter function. We need to pass this method. And next we need to pass this element. Okay. And finally, we want to print new list 2022. Okay. All right. All right. So we can see we have successfully captured the 2 records, which are, which ends with 2022. Basically, these 2 records, because when it checked this particular record, so it checked that it ends with 2022 or not. So it is basically returning false. As it is returning false, this internal part will not run. Obviously, we know that part else will come, and as else is returning false, that's why the filter function will understand that for this particular element, okay, we need not to keep that element in the new list. We should not be keeping that element in the new list. Again, it will be capturing this, and in this case, as it is ends with 2022, it will come inside the body, and it will be, as it is returning true, the filter function will understand that, okay, this particular element should be kept inside the new list. So it will be keeping that inside the new list. And this is how, without the loop, in a slick way, in an efficient way, the filter function can go through each element one after the other, and we can write some complex statement over here. One final thing, if you have understood or if you have guessed it properly, then it will be great that we can simplify this thing. You see, here we are not writing much complex statements. So this if-else statement in Python can be written, this whole if-else statement. Anyway, inside the if-else statement body, we are writing just a single statement. And in the else also, we are writing just a single statement. So this can be written using the ternary operator in Python, right? So ternary operator, the difference between the if-else and ternary operator, if-else is a complex structure. Whereas ternary operator is a single statement. Here if else is not a single statement, it is multiple statement, right? But the ternary operator works like if else, but it considered as a single statement. And as it is considered as a single statement, we know that we can put it inside a filter function, right? Sorry, inside the lambda function, right? So we can rewrite the same code as follows using lambda function. And this will go like this. So new list 2. Okay. So new list 2 will be, first of all, I know that it will not going to return me a list. So list, then filter. And inside this filter, the function that I'm going to write will be a lambda function. So lambda function. After that, basically, I'm going to rewrite the same function as a lambda function. So I'm capturing, and after that, I'm going to write the ternary operator. How to write it? So basically, I am going to return true. So whatever I want to return when the things are, when this if statement gets executed properly, that return value I need to write first. Okay, so I'm returning true. When I'm returning true, if the statement, I'm just copy pasting, I'm not rewriting the statement completely. So, all right. So when this particular if statement becomes true, that time true will be returned. That's what is happening over here, right? And else, let me just check. Else, what I want to return, I return false. That's it. And after that, false. And after that, I need to feed the data as well, just like this. So let us feed the data over here. And this should work. So let us print new list 2 and execute. And there is a problem. What's the problem? Filter expect 2 arguments. I think I understood what's the problem. So here it starts a filter function. I close that bracket over there. And I need to close the bracket over here. And here we go with the same output. All right. So this is how you can, make your code a bit more efficient, okay, and slick with the help of map and filter function. I hope this was helpful. So, yeah, thank you for joining the session. All right. So I am the instructor at Byte Academy. I'm Shubhankar. You can, if you're joining the Discord server, so then you can find me in the channels, in the data science channel. Apart from that, I will be also available on the JavaScript and Python channel. All right. Now, let me quickly give you an overview of the Nestria Discord server. Allow me a second. All right. This is the Nestria Discord server. This is how it looks. And as you can see, under the event, so this particular event is now happening. So you can see the notification as, so there will be a lot of event happening. You will get the notification. You can learn a lot of things from there. All right. So links will be also provided. You can click over there and it will, take you to YouTube and you can watch the event, right? So apart from that, there are different channels, like over here, Python resources are available, okay? And then data science resources are available. Then JavaScript resources are available, blockchain resources are available. So apart from that, there are job or careers options as well, fine? So do consider joining this server. This will be a great help and great, for your career, and you will be able to learn a lot of things from there. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining with us today. And we will come up with a new event next week. Thank you.